Hi, I'm Cant, and in this video we're going to take a look at a record that pushed the boundaries of what hardcore could be with its unique sound and lush, detailed production, Acen's Window in the Sky from 1993. Despite being a stunning and symphonic work, the Window in the Sky EP didn't have the impact of Acen's previous set of releases, 1991's Close Your Eyes and 1992's Trip to the Moon. You can hear Window in the Sky tracks in a few sets, notably Easy Groove at Obsession Hyperspace 1993. However, overall the tracks didn't get anywhere near as much DJ support as their predecessors. Released on the celebrated Production House label, Close Your Eyes and Trip to the Moon were at the cutting edge of early rave music, combining heavy breakbeat edits and big bass with evocative synth work and some audacious sampling choices including The Beatles, The Doors, Prince, Ennio Morricone and John Barry amongst many others. When it came to Window in the Sky, Acen eschewed the big samples of his previous releases and created a new sound unlike anything else in the scene at the time. With original vocals, vibrant synthesized soundscapes and rarely heard beat samples, Window in the Sky is a far cry from the sound of its contemporaries. Let's take a look at Window in the Sky itself. As you can see from the 12-inch art, it's billed as Window in the Sky Parts 1 and 2, which is great, except that there are 3 versions: Kingdom of Light, Crystal Fairground and Monolithic Maniac. The Discogs page for a 2-track promo release lists the tracks as Kingdom of Light and Crystal Fairground, and I think it makes sense that these are parts 1 and 2, as each part has its own unique, uncredited vocal, and both use a sample human beatbox loop from Boogie Down Productions' Breath Control.
Yo, check this out.
On the CD single, Kingdom of Light has a radio edit, and it's also the track that appears on Hard Leaders 3 Enter the Dark Side, so let's assume this is part 1. Whereas Close Your Eyes and Trip to the Moon were predominantly sample based, Kingdom of Light immediately hits us with a completely fresh palette of synth sounds that's a far cry from the majority of breakbeat hardcore of the time, which was usually quite gritty. Kingdom of Light isn't gritty, it's pretty, an expansive euphoric soundscape that feels open and inviting rather than brooding like the track's contemporaries. The Mikado string adds an organic touch to the proceedings, and these days I feel the urge to compare it to, dare I say it, Enya. That is very much a compliment, because Enya is sick, and I'm going to back this up with a comparison. Here's a bit of Enya's Orinoco flow.
Let me say it, let me say it, let the Orinoco flow. Let me reach, let me beach, the shores of Tripoli.
Now, here's a breakdown from Weird Energy, Hell's Bells Mix by DJ Hype, a track that's featured on Hard Leaders 3 along with Kingdom of Light.
Energy and consciousness.
I've got to say, I feel Kingdom of Light does have a lot more in common with the Irish legend in this particular comparison. It's not just the musical elements and vibe where Kingdom of Light differs from its hardcore contemporaries. Beats-wise, it's a lot lighter and skippier. As well as the boogie down beat mentioned earlier, we have a brand new heavies break. Also, we have some more beatboxing from Dougie Fresh's Slick Rick collaboration at The Show. These beats are mixed really lightly in the mix, and with Kingdom of Light, it really feels like the music is in charge of the track. This is very much in contrast to other releases from the era. For example, here's a bit of Baby Kane's Bagpipes in Effect from Hard Leaders 3. Again, another really stark comparison. Bagpipes beats are dead in the centre, super loud and rugged, whereas Kingdom of Lights have a bit of stereo width to them, are very clean sounding, and are pretty restrained sounding overall. It's not just the beats that are unusual either. Let's take a listen to Kingdom of Light's bass. Kingdom of Light does have a big sub bass in it at some points. Like for example, during this B section breakdown, When the track switches back to the main groove, the bass seems to come from just the low end of the strings and some 808 bass hits. Let's take a look at this with this spectrogram view in Isotope RX. Here we're using the extended log scale so that we can see as much detail in the low end as possible. We can see that Kingdom of Light's bass changes up a lot throughout the track, and the bass notes aren't super loud and fade out, giving them a softer feel. Let's compare this with another track. Look at how loud and consistent this bass line is, and how hard it's really pummeling the 50Hz region. To me, this is how you make a fat-sounding hardcore bass line. Loads of sub-pressure around the 50Hz region, making your tune sound full and muscular. Let's take a listen to this tune. It sounds sick, doesn't it? Well, would you believe that this is Acen Window in the Sky DMS remix? I got this file from the same audio CD as Kingdom of Light, Acen's 75 Minutes album, so I feel this is a pretty just comparison. Kingdom of Light isn't the only version of Window in the Sky that has unique compositional and production choices. Here's Crystal Fairground, another richly detailed synth soundscape, again based around the Boogie Down Productions beatbox sample, and once again the beats are pretty softly mixed. We can see right away from the RX spectrogram that there are only a few points in the track where the bass hits the sub 70Hz range, one of which is during the intro. Monolithic Maniac has a little bit of a different vibe from parts 1 and 2. It's not based around the breath control beat sample and instead uses the Run DMC Runs House break as famously used by Urban Shakedown for some justice. The track also features the vocals from Crystal Fairground, so I guess this version is something of a remix. Once again though, we never really get that big hardcore bass line that we hear from its contemporaries, and when there is a lot of sub 70Hz information present, it seems to be just making the sound more full range rather than actually creating a driving sub bass line. Now, we know Acen can make a straight up banger hardcore track, as he has done so many times. Clearly, it's not that Acen couldn't create a traditional hardcore banger, it's that for some reason in this case, he didn't want to. The Window in the Sky tracks don't just make a point of lush, original synth soundscapes, they also go out of their way to avoid conforming to the expectations a listener might have of breakbeat hardcore. I feel like with Window in the Sky, Acen wanted to break free from hardcore's musical conventions. I think this theory is backed up by the content of his Dat Tapes 92 to 97 collection, which at the time of making the video is only partially available, but it doesn't really feature anything like his breakbeat hardcore stuff. In the 90s, Acen went on to make garage, D&B and hip-hop influenced beats under the Acen name, and gave electro a spin under the Space Pimp moniker, so I think he was really looking to experiment and broaden his horizons. That said, in 2019, Acen began putting out breakbeat hardcore again, and in 2023, he released Window in the Sky 2092, a new version of the track that's completely different to the original versions. Featuring a re-recorded version of the Kingdom of Light vocal by Ella Sop, Window in the Sky 2092 has a completely different feel to the original, with heavy, one-shot fortified beats, different instrument parts, different sounds, and different samples.
Take a walk through the colored lands, silver trees and purple sands. Close your eyes and you will find the window in the sky is divine.
So, after critiquing the 1993 version so much, you might imagine that this beefed up take would be my preferred version of Window in the Sky, but that's not the case. Dance floor smash or not, in 1993 I spent dozens of hours listening to the 3 original versions of Window in the Sky, and I found its luscious sonic palette enormously exciting and inspirational. It features some awesome synth work that doesn't really sound like any other record, and I find its musical content exhilarating and dynamic. I don't think it would be constructive to try and guess at what Acen was going for with Window in the Sky, but commercial and critical success aside, I think it's wildly successful as an artistic statement. There's nothing like Window in the Sky out there, and in a genre where innovation and experimentation are so important, I think it's fantastic that an artist like Acen was prepared to take such risks with their music to try and create something truly unique. There's more that could be said about Window in the Sky, like how it used the same novel sound-based 3D audio technology as the Welcome to the Future compilation series, or how the Nino versions on the Remix 12 have wild arrangement choices that are intriguing in themselves. However, time is running short, and I just want to leave you with my final thought. In my opinion, Window in the Sky stands alongside other 1993 classics as LTJ Bookham's Music and Omni Trio's Renegade Snares as an expression of what's possible with breakbeat music, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Window in the Sky might not have been the future of hardcore, but nonetheless, it transcended the trappings of the sound and still makes for fascinating listening today. If you're a producer and you'd like some help getting the sound you want, I offer one-to-one tuition. Check out the link in the description, and I'll see you next time.